Hello, it's Hannes from Boomerang. Today I want to have a quick chat about three reasons why we use medication for our racing pigeons. Um, the first one being to treat an illness, the second one as a preventative medication, and the third one to boost the general condition or the form of the pigeons. So let's quickly chat about the one where you actually have a problem in your loft. So your pigeons are sick, they're not healthy. Some of them you can see they're clearly not well. Things like paratyphoid, ornithosis, one I call those things, where you want to actually treat a problem in your loft. So in that scenario, we prefer to use the latest and greatest antibiotics that are efficient against those specific diseases. We will not use the older antibiotics because there's a lot of resistance built up against that already. By resistance, I mean the guys have been giving it for so long and the bacteria is resistant to the antibiotic already. So you can give that to the birds and they will not react because the bacteria really doesn't die. They just continue multiplying and infecting your pigeons and you have a problem. So therefore, the newer technology or newer antibiotics are more efficient, and we will use that if there is a problem in the loft, not for preventative. Preventative is the second category that we're going to look at. So preventative is when you want to give something to the pigeons to ensure that they keep their health or they keep their form. If you think about something like the pigeon malaria, for instance, that is a degenerative disease. So you will not necessarily see any symptoms. So the pigeons will seem healthy, they look healthy, everything seems fine. But when you wait for them on a Saturday, you are 5 or 10 minutes off the pace. So there's no definite symptoms, but there is an underlying condition which can be pigeon malaria, for instance. In that case, we do a preventative treatment during the season to ensure that these organisms in the blood is at a level where it doesn't affect the pigeon's health. So generally, before the season, we would do a complete course to ensure the pigeons are 100% healthy, treat malaria, let's say, for 10 days, and then during the season, we would do a preventative as well to ensure that the organism levels is at a level where it doesn't affect the pigeon's health. So something else that we can do as a preventative is the crop canker or trichomonas, for instance, where a similar scenario exists. It's okay for them to have some in their system, but if it gets above a certain level, it will cause them to not perform and it can even make them clinically ill. So, therefore, for trichomonas as well, we do a preventative treatment. And again, for preventative in this scenario, we do not use the best cure for trichomonas, for instance. That would be a general medication like metronidazole or ronidazole. The newer technology we leave for when there is a real problem. So why do we do preventative? During the season, your pigeons are in the baskets with the other birds of another guy. All the members in the club's pigeons goes into the same basket and they drink from the same water bowl. So therefore, if there's a friend of yours in the club that doesn't look after his pigeons well, the trichomonas will transfer to your birds. When they get home, they've got a low level of these organisms in the system, but that can flare up and multiply. So therefore, preventative comes into the picture where you want to clean them out and ensure that they are clean. They don't have these organisms in them. The same with the pigeon malaria. It's transferred by the pigeon flies in the basket. There might be a pigeon fly going from bird to bird, affects your birds, it's in the bloodstream, and it starts multiplying. If you do not do a preventative, your pigeons will obviously contract the malaria and they will start being non-performers essentially. So therefore, the preventative comes into the picture as well. So there's a lot of various different preventative treatments you can do. I must say that using preventative antibiotics is not really ideal because you are creating resistance when you do that. So you're not, let's say you give a antibiotic for 1 or 2 or 3 days and it should be 5 days or 7 days. You are creating resistant bacteria if your pigeon has that. By resistant bacteria, it means those bacteria will not react to the antibiotic. They just become stronger and stronger. And eventually, we sit with superbugs that cannot be treated effectively. And it's not only your birds that will be affected, you are also affecting your other fanciers in the club's birds and in the federation, because that resistant bacteria will now transfer to other birds. Those people will try and treat their birds with the normal antibiotics that they know, and there will be no reaction. Therefore, the latest or the more modern antibiotics might kill it, but there could be a day where we end up not having efficient antibiotics to kill these bugs, and then there's no recourse we can take. So be careful to use antibiotics as a preventative measure. Then the third and final category or reason that we use medication is to boost the general condition or the form of your loft. So I'm sure we've all seen that there are certain things when you give it to your pigeons, they just react. So they get into form and suddenly they're flying in front, or they just look better. They just react. You can see them shining and they're looking well. Now, an example of that is the levimazole, which is in the tramizole that we have here in South Africa. It's actually a dewormer, and we do not give it to the birds as a dewormer because it's not very effective anymore. But if you give it to your birds, you can definitely see that their form has increased. So various things. Talk to your old hands in your club. If you don't know, ask them about these things. There are things that the guys give. And another example is the paramyxovirus vaccination we do. So in South Africa, we need to vaccinate for the pigeon paramyxovirus and also the chicken ND Newcastle disease strain. So we do that as a preventative before the season starts. And then in our loft, we also do it in the middle of the season. And the reason for that is not because we think the pigeons will have paramyxovirus. It's just to boost their health. We do that like 2 weeks before the derby or big race, and that immediately boosts your pigeon's form. Also, when you're struggling to get your pigeons in front, there might be another disease lurking and you can't pinpoint it. But if you do the paramyxovirus vaccination, what does it do? It forces the immune system to build antibodies. Those antibodies will kill any unwelcome guests in the immune system. So it might not be paramyxovirus, but whatever else is there, it will kill that. And immediately your birds are now healthy and they've got a glowing immune system. So that is another great preventative that we found, or not a preventative, a booster of general condition. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of things you guys can do to keep your birds in top health. And yeah, cheers and happy pigeon keeping.